This is the Energy Makers Show, featuring the innovators, financiers, and policymakers focused on the global energy demand. Brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And here's your host, Paul Dickerson.
Hi, I'm Paul Dickerson. Welcome to the Energy Makers Show. My guest today is Arun Banskota, president of NRG EV Services, who explains how his team's eVgo program is turning electric vehicle owners' range anxiety into range confidence. All that right after this.
Where will the energy come from to move us forward? From natural sources in abundant supply, or perhaps a man-made source? At NRG, we believe innovation will solve our energy needs. That's why NRG is moving away from fossil fuels towards wind, solar, and other sustainable technologies to power the smart grid, the electric car, and our clean energy future. We're using all of our energy to develop more of it.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. We have with us today Arun Banskota, president of NRG's EV Services. Arun, great to have you on the program.
Nice to be here, Paul.
Well, congratulations. Did I hear you have your first eVgo Freedom Station?
Absolutely. On September the 8th, we inaugurated the first Freedom Station right over there at HEB. And amazingly enough, we had 21 electric vehicles out there with us.
Oh,
so it was a great day for the EV community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I definitely want to spend a lot of time talking about the eVgo, but maybe taking a step back, tell us about EV Services.
Sure. So EV Services is a fully owned subsidiary of NRG. And we launched in Houston back in November of 2010. And then in Dallas-Fort Worth in April of 2011. And we've been selling a lot of subscription packages, and we have 3 different plans: the home plan, the mobile plan, and the complete plan. And so far, I'm very glad to say that the adoption of EVs and the adoption of eVgo has been extremely positive.
All right, well, let's start there. How do I sign up?
All you do is you call me up, Paul, and we can sign you up for one of the 3 plans. And just to give you a little bit of description on what you actually get for signing up. So the $89 a month complete plan will come in and do a free home assessment. We'll install at no upfront cost to you a 240-volt home charger. We'll give you a key fob that gives you access to all of the Freedom stations that we're going to have not only in Houston but wherever the eVgo network is. And all of the kilowatt hours that you consume, both in the public and at home, is covered with that $89 a month program. So all you do is contrast that with, Paul, you're probably spending, what, $200 a month on gasoline?
At least.
And versus $89 a month, you have total range confidence, and you have total confidence that you can get by anywhere in the metropolitan area with that one eVgo plan.
So Arun, how long does it take to charge a car?
So Paul, there's really 3 types of charging docks, chargers, if you will. The first is your regular 110 volt, which you have, all of us have in our homes, and that gives you approximately 6 miles in an hour. It's fairly slow charge. The other, which is the 240 volt, which is part of our home plan or the mobile or the complete plan, that gives you approximately 20 to 25 miles per hour of charge. And the third, which is the one we're using in our Freedom stations, is a DC rapid charger. And that, in fact, gives you 200 miles per hour of charge. So you just go, you charge up your car, go into your Walgreens or HEB, 15 minutes, you get 50 miles, 50 miles of charge. So these are very rapid chargers, and these are the ones that will give you total range confidence.
Well, I was driving the other day, and I saw one of the EVs. What's your prediction, at least for Houston?
Well, just to give you a little context, we're in a very supply-constrained market. So in a market that sells 12 to 16 million cars a year in the U.S., all you have in 2011 is maybe as many as 30,000 EVs. So it's a drop in the bucket. But when you look at all of the plans that the auto manufacturers have announced, there's a very quick ramping up. In 2012, you'll have probably in the range of 100 to 130,000. In 2013, more like 250,000. And then you have 13 manufacturers that have announced plans to introduce EVs into the market.
What do you say to folks concerned about the cost of the vehicles themselves?
Right. So when we think about cost, Paul, we really think about three elements, right? You've got the upfront cost of actually buying the car. Right. Then you've got your regular maintenance cost. And then you've got your operations cost. So what I really like to do is quote the first recipient of the Nissan Leaf in the state of Texas. His name is Jimmy Sowers. And when people asked him afterwards, the media asked him, why did you buy an EV? And he works, in fact, for NRG. His wife works at NASA. And he's got a couple of beautiful kids. And his answer was, I did a lot of calculations, and it made financial sense for me. And he said, to know that I'm helping do my bit for reducing air emissions and helping the nation in terms of energy security, that just makes me sleep a lot better at night.
Sure.
And so in my mind, when you look at the overall cost analysis, EVs are already lower priced than your comparable conventional vehicle.
Well, and you hit on one of the other concerns, right, is are they cleaner? Sure. Some people say, all right, well, we have coal generation, a fossil generator of that power to then go into the car. How do you address that?
So, Paul, we've done a lot of analysis on this, and even an EV that is powered with 100% coal is still cleaner than a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle. Now, especially here in Texas, we're very fortunate that you've got all this nighttime wind. In fact, for people who may not know, Texas has the most wind of any state, more than 10,000 megawatts. And wind typically blows a lot more at night.
Right.
And charging of the electric vehicles will be done mostly at night. So you've got this perfect correlation of nighttime wind and nighttime EV charging. More than likely, many of these EVs will be charged with renewable sources for much of their time, either whether that be nighttime wind or nighttime hydro or some other renewable sources.
Well, you talk about the wind blowing, and certainly it's been a hot summer in Texas. Yeah. There's been concern about the grid, and we've had some peak months. What should people think about when they think about all these electric cars adding possible load to the grid?
We're very fortunate here in Texas with a lot of the resources we already have. One of the resources we already have is, in fact, a very strong and robust grid. And CenterPoint here in Houston and Encore up in the Dallas area, they've already done studies. CenterPoint, for example, their study says that they can house something in the range of 250,000 electric vehicles in their grid area without really making any investments in strengthening the grid even further. So we already have a very robust grid that can handle a significant number of EVs now.
Well, thanks. We'll be right back with more with Arun right after this. This is the Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio nationwide and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com.
The future is here.
You can't see it. It's electric.
At NRG, we're providing clean energy and now charging stations to make the electric car a reality. Kinda makes you want a boogie woogie, doesn't it? NRG, moving clean energy forward.
It's electric.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. We're continuing on with Arun Banskota. Arun, when we left, I wanted to segue into the business model. You're an entrepreneur. You've been doing this many years. Did I hear correctly that NRG is paying for this initiative out of its own pocket?
Absolutely, and we're very fortunate. NRG and our CEO David Crane is a real visionary in this electric vehicle space. He's been talking about electric vehicles back 3 or 4 years before, when people were not even, it was not even a source of conversation. And we decided as a company to really become a first mover in the EV space. And when we really looked at it, we asked ourselves, okay, what is really the problem that we can help resolve? And we came up with 3 issues, Paul. The first is really range anxiety. Everybody talks about it. And so our plan there was to install these 50 Freedom stations in Houston, 70 in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so you're going to have a charging station every 5 or 10 miles of where you are. So that really should take care of the range anxiety issue.
And in fact, almost give you range confidence.
Absolutely. And when people ask me, frankly, what business are you in, I like to say that I'm in the business of providing range confidence.
Yeah.
Exactly. The second issue is really the upfront cost of the home chargers. So even after you buy an electric vehicle, the home charging dock and the installation, the 240 volt charger, can cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000, which we believe is a significant cost.
Sure.
And the third is really the pricing and the cost uncertainty, right? People do not have a very good familiarity over kilowatt hours and mileage. And so that was the reason we really came up with this subscription package. So when you buy a subscription package, we not only take care of your range confidence, you pay 0 upfront cost for your home chargers, and it's a fixed cost over 36 months. So you can budget your cost for the next 36 months, knowing exactly how much you're going to pay for your electric vehicle.
Well, as you know, I spent a fair amount of time at the Department of Energy, and in that role, we always looked at where's the proper role for government in working with the private sector. Is there some way that government can play a role, either with NRG or with this initiative?
Absolutely, Paul. I think the best thing the government has done as this electric vehicle adoption is just gearing up is a $7,500 tax rebate. That is probably the single best incentive that the government has provided with electric vehicles. As we all know what is happening in Washington and in the various other state capitals, when we're asked to talk with government folks, and they're always asking me, what can the government do? I actually tend to focus on a lot of the low cost or no cost incentives that the government can provide. As we talk with our consumers, one of the biggest incentives that the government can provide is free access to HOV lanes. These HOV lanes were meant originally for reducing carbon emissions in any case. We think it's a perfect rationale for electric vehicles. Allowing EVs throughout the country to have single driver access to HOV lanes would be a no-cost incentive that the government can provide very easily. The other is really things like HOT lane access. A lot of parts of this country have HOT lanes, and especially in the early years to spur adoption of EVs, providing free access to HOT lanes. Preferred parking, perhaps. So a lot of these incentives that really do not cost anything to the government could go a long ways in spurring the adoption of EVs.
Well, Arun, it's a great story. Thank you so much for coming by and sharing it with our audience.
Sure, absolutely. And Paul, I'd love to invite you to where we're based. We're actually housed on I-10 in the former Hummer building. So it's a very apt analogy of us moving from Hummer to the electric vehicle space. So it's a great time to be in the auto industry for us.
It's a great story.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
Paul.
for coming by. And that concludes this week's episode of The Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio nationwide and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com. I'm Paul Dickerson. We'll see you next week.